Ryan Mercer spent 2 years chasing accounts of abandoned hospitals, UFO sightings, and deep woods conspiracies. But the stories had become repetitive, and his audience was moving on. He needed a discovery that felt real. That discovery arrived as a voicemail at 12:17 a.m. No caller ID, no background noise. A trembling voice whispered a single instruction: "If you come to Black Pine, don't stay awake after midnight." The town repeats. Ryan drove into the Montana mountains 2 days later. He found that Black Pine had no digital footprint, no recent photos, no social media, and no active business listings. In person, it was a pristine, snow-covered postcard of a town. The residents watched him with a rigid, nervous curiosity. At the local diner, the atmosphere was as quiet as a library. When the waitress approached, she didn't ask for his order. She simply looked at him and said, "Cold morning again." The synchronized movements of the townspeople and the total absence of modern technology made the town feel like an isolated stage set. Ryan's skepticism faded as he realized the community was waiting for a specific moment to arrive. As Ryan left the diner, an older man gripped his arm and spoke urgently. He warned Ryan to be asleep before 12:17 a.m., claiming that if Ryan remembered the reset, he would be noticed. Right at midnight, the motel room went silent. The cell signal vanished, the television lost its feed, and the wind outside stopped completely. At 12:17 a.m., the church bell rang once. For a fraction of a second, the town's appearance shifted entirely. The snow disappeared, and the buildings looked rotted and broken. Then Ryan lost consciousness. This timeline shows the mechanics of the Black Pine Loop. Physical reality progresses until it hits the 12:17 threshold, at which point it snaps back to 8:03 a.m. Ryan woke up to find his luggage back at the front desk and the exact same morning playing out again. Every conversation, every gesture, and every event repeated with mechanical precision. The town was trapped in a cycle that forcefully reset the physical world every 24 hours. Ryan spent the day tracking the loop's consistency. At 2:12 p.m., a grocery worker dropped a box. At 5:04 p.m., the church bell rang. The repetition was flawless, down to the movement of the clouds. He eventually met Noah, a teenager who belonged to a small group of residents called Rememberers. These people retained their memories across the resets, living through the same day for what they feared were decades. When a person is removed, the system deletes their entire history. Reality reroutes and closes the gap, ensuring that every trace of their existence is scrubbed from the record. Noah's sister had disappeared months ago, but his mother now claimed she never had a daughter. In the family albums, faces were physically cut out of photographs, and bedrooms became empty storage closets overnight. The loop functioned as a system of total erasure. It didn't just remove people, it rewrote the past so that those people had never existed in the first place. In the church basement, Ryan found a schedule written on a bulletin board. It listed upcoming removals for the next several loops. At the bottom of the list was his own name, followed by the words, 4 resets remaining. Ryan tried to flee, but the roads leading out of Black Pine were physically impossible to navigate. Every highway turn and forest path eventually looped back to the town square, keeping him pinned within the town limits. With his time running out, Ryan decided to stay awake through the 12:17 a.m. reset. He hid in the church basement, hoping that by remaining conscious, he could see what was actually controlling the town. As the church bells rang, the basement lights failed.
Tall, shadow figures carrying lanterns began patrolling the streets. They moved from house to house, checking the windows for anyone who hadn't fallen asleep. Staying awake through the reset acts as a signal. By maintaining consciousness during the transition, an individual identifies themselves to the lantern bearers, marking them for permanent removal. By the final reset, the town's system began overriding Ryan's own mind. Noah had already been erased, and Ryan found himself forgetting his passwords, his home address, and his own childhood. In the town's abandoned library, Ryan found a newspaper clipping from 1987. Black Pine had burned to the ground in a massive wildfire 30 years ago. According to the records, there were no survivors. On the final night, the roads were blocked by residents who stood silently watching Ryan. A voice over the town's loudspeaker announced that the final adjustment was beginning, and a single resident was scheduled for removal. Black Pine was a recurring echo of its own destruction, a placeholder in the forest that repeated the same 24 hours that had physically ended decades prior. Ryan ran into the woods and blacked out. When he woke up, he was 50 miles away on a sunny highway. It was January 15th, a new day. He had finally moved past the 14th. He stopped at a gas station to buy water, checking his phone to find that Black Pine was missing from every map. He was back in the real world, far from the Montana mountains. As the cashier handed him his change, the man looked at him with a tired, familiar smile and said, "Cold morning again." Ryan looked at his own reflection in the glass of the door. A tall figure with a lantern was standing directly behind him, visible only in the dark surface of the window. The borders of the town were an illusion. The anomaly attaches itself to the memory of the survivor, ensuring that the loop continues wherever they go.